There's more to see than can ever be seen, more to do than can ever be done in The Lion King for the Sega Genesis. Of course, that's not because this is some enormous game with copious amounts of content and features, it's because The Lion King is harder to deal with than a mandrill shaman. Released for virtually every platform imaginable in 1994, The Lion King comes from Virgin Interactive, a British publisher with a bit of experience in bringing Disney properties to gaming consoles. Just a year earlier, Virgin released a 16-bit adaptation of Disney's Aladdin to mostly solid reviews, and that experience is evident in The Lion King. Imagine that, a time when licensed games didn't suck.
Cool.
And not only does The Lion King not suck, but it's also not easy, another jarring difference from today's licensed games. In fact, it's quite the opposite of easy, and that's one of The Lion King's most enduring traits. This isn't a tough game for kids, this is a tough game for anyone. In some ways, that's a good thing, but it's also ironic that a game based on a movie that promotes a problem-free philosophy would be so arduous to play. I mean, geez, this is anything but Hakuna Matata. And that brings us to some of the problems with this otherwise solid game. The Lion King's difficulty isn't always genuine. Sometimes it's hard for the wrong reasons. The game can be kind of cheap at times, with awkward enemy placement made no easier by the somewhat loose controls. And when an already tough game doesn't control tightly, well, that can be an automatic formula for, roaring headaches. There are also some balance issues in terms of its progression. The Lion King actually gets easier in the later levels, in which Simba becomes an adult lion capable of slashing his enemies. Now, the levels themselves are designed well, but that regression in difficulty definitely leaves a scar on The Lion King. But again, that's not to say this is a bad game. It's far from great, but it's certainly a good game, especially if you're a Disney fan. The Lion King looks great, as Virgin worked with actual Disney animators for the game's backgrounds and sprites. Now, the colors do suffer from a tendency toward oversaturation, which was a common problem with Disney films in the early 90s, but that actually gives the game a more authentic Disney feel. Throw in music and actual voices from the movie, and the presentation is really spot on.
Cool.
Virgin Interactive really knew what they were doing with these Disney games. This action platformer has a few problems for sure, but it's a really solid game and it was a pretty big success for them. The Lion King sold more than 1 million copies on the Super Nintendo, and it was actually bundled with the Genesis in late 1994. I mean, being sold in a bundle kind of puts a game in elite company, and while I'd argue this one doesn't quite deserve to be, lionized, The Lion King is a fun and mostly well-made game nonetheless.
The king has returned.